Welcome back to Review Crew. I'm Roman.
And I'm Gabe. On today's episode, we're going to review CODA. Cam and Carrie are going on the spot to review King Richard.
Here's the trailer for CODA.
There are plenty of pretty voices with nothing to say. Do you have something to say?
Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. Yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before.
You're the girl with the deaf family?
Yeah. I just want to tell you right now.
And you sing. Interesting.
Something's got a hold on me here.
What are you doing next year?
Working with my family.
Let me tell you now, I've got a feeling I feel so strange. Everything about me seems to have changed.
I've been coaching for Berklee College of Music. I can help you get a scholarship.
I really won't let go. I said,
I want to do this.
There are plenty of pretty voices with nothing to say. Do you have something to say?
You will be required to have a hearing individual on board at all times.
I can't stay with you for the rest of my life. I've never done anything without my family before. All that I need to get by.
Hey everybody, so we're going to review CODA. Roman. The Oscars just happened on Sunday, and let's just say they were very controversial. Some things happened that we don't necessarily need to get into, but there was also a lot of controversial film choices, and I don't think any is more prescient than Best Picture. CODA won. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, CODA is, by all means, a pretty good movie. Do I think it's the best picture? No, I personally would have given that to Drive My Car. But there's a lot of good things to say about this movie, and then there's some other commentary of where, maybe it wasn't the best picture. Overall, though, I had a good time.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I don't think this movie really was the best picture of the year, but the Academy messing something up, I don't find that surprising at all. There are some good things about this movie. So I'll ask you this. What were your favorite parts about CODA?
Well, yeah, I mean, CODA ultimately, as a movie, is not going to do anything narratively that you've never seen before.
True.
You're not going to see anything in this movie where, like, I did not see that coming, or I've never seen this before, but there's some really charming acting, fantastic actors, really engaging and well-written characters that you're going to have very easy time connecting with, and good music, too, actually. Yeah. And, I mean, if you know anything about CODA at this point without having seen it, you probably know, this is a movie about a deaf family with one hearing daughter, and it's just great to see stories like this, and this is a very good one in that regard, and there is a lot to enjoy here.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. I think the representation that this film shows is so necessary and so powerful, because it portrays this deaf family, but they're not broken people. Like, yes, they have a physical disability, but they're still a happy family. They're communicative, And, like, there's this one scene, I'm not going to go into details, but you can tell these parents love each other. This is a whole family. And so I think it's so refreshing to not only have representation, but have it be positive representation. And I completely agree with you. There were also some amazing actors. One of my personal favorites, Eugenio Derbez, as her teacher. In some ways, he felt a little bit like a sitcom character in the sense that he had some caricature-type moments. But, Troy Kotsur, won Best Supporting Actor. He does such a good job of walking this line between a father who loves his daughter and wants to support her in chasing her dreams, but also he's a man who knows he needs to provide for his family. And his daughter's the only one who can hear. They end up getting fined by the Coast Guard, and so he needs her, to be on the boat with him. It's all about a family of fishermen, and it's really cool to have it be set in Gloucester, Massachusetts. It was actually filmed on, right in the city, so that's really cool. And so his performance is really nuanced because that's a hard balance. Obviously I'm not a dad, but having to picture that idea of how do you support someone when supporting them means you have to endanger like the life you live and, your comfort and your safety. That's a really difficult question. And so there's a lot about this film that is quite simple, but it also brings up some pretty complex themes. Now, one thing that I thought was really cool was you talked about how this movie used music really well. Do you want to kind of elucidate on that point for us?
Yeah, so the main character here, she's a singer. That's her passion. She joins this choir club because she sees a boy in her class that she's interested in, but singing is actually her passion, and she's really great at it. Her family is deaf.
Yep.
So, there's this interesting sort of, I don't want to say tension, but back and forth with her mother and her father about like, well, you're doing this great thing, but it's kind of hard for us to appreciate and enjoy, the good thing you're putting out there in the world. And it's really interesting the way we get to see music used as a tool of both her expressing her passion, her moving in a direction away from her family, and then also keeping her family close to her. And the music itself is very good. Both the soundtrack, there's some good Marvin Gaye, some good 70s music in here. And then the music performed by the actors actually is really, really well sung. So if you like Pitch Perfect, this is a fantastically better singing movie.
Yes, I will agree with that.
This is a fantastically better movie about singing. So there's definitely some really good music, and if that's something that you like watching in a movie, this is definitely one for you.
Yeah, for a movie that is about being deaf, it uses music in a very profound way. There is one moment where we know a girl is singing, but we're not getting any of the audio from it. And we're placed in the position that her family is placed in. They want to appreciate what she does, but, it's really hard to love someone in a way that you can't comprehend. And so that's a quite beautiful moment. And then our ending scene, we get this girl singing for her family, but she's signing while she's doing it. And so she's found this way to connect her passion and her people. And I think that's kind of the dream for all of us. Both Sides Now is a wonderful song that they use at the end, and it's a very powerful moment. And so I completely agree with you. This is a movie that is driven by music. It's both a plot tool and also just a way of connecting with the family. And I think for me, that's one of the biggest pros. But like we said, we weren't both crazy about this movie, so we're going to get right to the cons after our break. So, Roman, we've talked about the pros. Now, neither of us thought this movie should have been Best Picture. Do you kind of want to talk about your reasoning for that?
Yeah, I mean, first I want to say, comparing, when you watch a movie, you don't always want to think of it comparatively. Sometimes you just want to go in blank. So if you just want to like consider the movie for what it is and not in the sense of Best Picture, by all means do. But the cons we have are, my opinion, regardless of where it falls in an award show. And the biggest one we touched on earlier is that there's some pretty formulaic elements to this plot.
100%.
I mean, there was not one point throughout the duration of watching this movie that I felt like I was really on my toes. I didn't know what was going to happen, or there was no scenes where the thing that I was seeing in front of me was like a complete surprise, or I didn't see where the actual course of the scene itself was going. Even some of those, like you said, some of those like beautiful moments where she's signing to her family to let them know what's going on. You could kind of see that coming. Like it wasn't really, and when it happens, it's still a good moment. But the plot is not the strongest part of this. Not the strongest part of this. And there's a lot happening on screen that will keep you engaged. Like I said, this is still a positive review for me. But if this were just a book that I were reading, if I were just reading, this script, I wouldn't be totally sold on it. Maybe.
Yeah, I would completely agree with you. I think there are some excellently executed moments in this film, but the connective tissue to get us between those moments just is not there. And I think a lot of that is because this movie is very trite. It uses a lot of concepts that we've seen before. Now, using people who are deaf to tell that story, beautiful, and the representation is amazing, and I will never take anything away from that. But a lot of this feels like a Netflix movie that you've seen 30 times before. And so the representation is not enough to make this a unique film, And my other issue with this comes from our director, Sean Heder. Just the cinematography in this film is really boring. Honestly, there's not much shot variety. Some of the composition is quite weird. And so I found myself, in a way, you kind of just want to be like, can I take a second crack at this movie? Because, like, if you have those actors, and these are excellently acted scenes, but just behind the camera, there's no juice. There's no life. This is a very loving movie. It's about those themes of sacrifice and loving people based on their love language and not yours, which are very complex themes. But visually, we just don't dig into them at all.
Yeah, and it's not that, I completely agree, and it's not that this movie needed, drone shots, ducking and dodging everything or anything crazy like that. It's just, in this particular movie, the camera serves as really no other purpose other than to show you the things that are happening.
I completely agree with you.
There's really nothing more to it. There's a few shots that are like, cleverly crafted, glad they positioned. There's at one point a character is describing like, the place they're at in their life, and you can see in the background like their kids' toys and stuff like that. But that's good, but it's not like, it's nothing crazy. And granted, it doesn't have to be. Like I said, you're still going to enjoy this movie. There's still a lot. Like, we've said before, the acting, fantastic. That Best Supporting Actor.
Troy Kotsur, amazing actor.
Extraordinarily deserved.
Yep.
But yeah, if you've seen a teen movie, if you've seen a coming-of-age movie, you know where this is going. She's going to college. Her family wants to keep her around. She has a love interest. There's where this is going. And I personally don't believe that sort of coming-of-age drama is something that has to be that formulaic. I mean, a few years ago we saw Lady Bird, and granted that's a really high standard to hold every movie to, but we've seen that you can do something that's relatable and a familiar tale and still do it in a way that's really extraordinarily unique, and this just isn't that.
Yeah, I'll just say, the concept of leaving home and leaving your family to go pursue your dreams, that's something I've lived. My family, we're in New York, my family's in Wisconsin, and so that's a deep emotional thing that they could have, ripped open and examined and showed us how the character is juggling, all those balls in the air, but they don't do that. We end up getting her leaving, she says, "I love you" to the family, and that's it. And so my biggest issue with this film, besides the formulaicness of it, is the missed opportunities. They had an opportunity to tell a story about, like I previously said, loving someone in their love language, not yours, you know? But they just don't do anything with that. And so I can't help but notice those missed opportunities and just wonder, like, if they had spent less time on being rote, could we have spent more time, you know, on just being unique? And I think this film has a lot of great things going for it, but some things just really drag it down, man.
Tell me if you agree. I think what this movie needed was one good hard plot twist.
Yeah.
One thing where, like, oh my God, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Because we've said it, but it really, really goes in the direction you think it's going. Just maybe one thing at that, like, 1 hour mark where obviously it's a plot, things change, but something that totally out of left field would have really improved this. So, if we got to give it a number, if we got to rate it out of 10, how are you feeling about this one?
So my initial score for this was a 6 out of 10. I'm going to give it one extra point, bump it up to a 7 out of 10, because positive representation is something that should be fought for and appreciated in society. So for me, CODA, 7 out of 10.
It's funny, I'm also giving it a 7 out of 10, but usually when I finish watching a movie, I'm really hype and I focus on the positives and then come back down to earth a little. So I came from the other direction. I was kind of feeling an 8 because those performances really blew me away. And then looking at it now, I'm like, this might be one that it's a little bit long before I rewatch. So
Yeah.
7 out of 10, positive review. Definitely worth your time if it sounds like something you're interested in, but Best Picture, not in
We
my
don't think it really
opinion.
deserved it. But thanks. We'll be right back after this.
That's all for this week. If you want to follow more Review Crew content, go to the Review Crew Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, as well as Orange TV Network on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, and YouTube.
Find the Review Q's podcast on Spotify or on our website at orangetvnetwork.syr.edu, where you can also find our blog and more OTN information.
Check out this week's screening hosted by University Union, the 355. Also, be sure to check out Friday Night Movie Night on OTN. This week's movies are Reefer Madness 2, Royal Wedding, and The Jackie Robinson Story.
See you next week.